third panel, that is on human security, education and governance. Chairperson, I welcome Professor Dr. Gauri Shankar Nag, who is head of the Department of Political Science, Sidhu Kano Birsa University, Purulia, West Bengal. And co-chairperson is Dr. Amrita Banerjee, Assistant Professor, Bidhan Chandra College, Asansol, which is affiliated to Kachi Nazrul University, West Bengal. Now over to you, Professor Gauri Shankar Nag and Amrita Banerjee.
I may leave. I leave.
Okay, sir. Professor Gauri Shankar Nag, you are already co-host, and Amrita Banerjee, you are co-host, so you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Okay, Nandini, I am audible?
Yes, yes.
So, may I start?
Yes, yes, sir. Please.
At the very outset, I was actually listening to our discourse, interesting discourse of the paper presenters, and it's very enriching discourse that I found very interesting, and I took note of some points that I would be able to weave together in terms of some exhilarating paper in future. Let me just come to our session, and at the very outset, I feel really privileged to get the opportunity from these as a chairperson of this panel. I was actually is my the role that I've been given is to actually my role is to facilitate the paper presenters by allowing them more time so that they can actually dwell on their paper, and they're actually waiting. So I think that whatever I have to tell, I'll be telling it at the conclusion, at the concluding observations that we will be making. Before that, just as a ritual, as a chairperson, I think that this deliberation that the paper presenters they will be delivering right now, I am seeing that 12 paper presenters. There are 12 and more than 15 paper presenters. They will be presenting their papers on diverse dimensions of the area, that is the governance, education, and the human security. And we are waiting for their innovative and creative thought that they have actually put together in terms of their thought-provoking paper that they will share with us. I will right now invite my co-chairperson, Dr. Amrita Banerjee. Ma'am, if you have some initial words that you think befitting for the paper presenters, it is now your turn, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I think I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Gauri Shankar sir. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Nandini Batista ma'am for giving the opportunity. With that, I'm going to thank the Interdisciplinary Institute of Human Security and Governance, New Delhi, for this prestigious, the position to co-host the session. One thing I just want to mention to all the participants that I think we can give 5 minutes to each of the participants, and within this stipulated time, if you could finish it up, then I think we can take up some questions at the end of the session. Thank you. That's it. Over to you, sir.
Very befitting comments from my co-chair. I thanks to her. And I invite the very first paper, Dr. Gilbert and Tony Umaras of Philippines. If you are there, sir, then it is your turn to quickly start the main points that you have jot down in your paper and the findings of your paper. So, are you hearing? Dr. Gilbert?
Sir, just want to mention whole name and designation and institution of Dr. Gilbert Moralista. He is Associate Professor of Pangasinan State University, Philippines, and co-author is Dr. Anthony G. Pumaras, who is in Victoria National High School, Philippines. And their paper title is Governance Practices of Supreme Student Government in the Public Secondary Schools in Region 3, Philippines, a paradigm shift of 21st century leaders.
Yes.
Yes, Anthony,
Hello.
are you going to present?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Is my presentation visible, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me start by saying, for an effective operation of student government, there should be a wide-ranging agenda, not tightly prescribed by the principal, which includes both students' immediate concerns and school policy issues, including matters that affect teaching and learning. So I am Dr. Anthony G. Pumaras, Master Teacher of Victoria National High School, Victoria, Tarlac, Philippines. Thank you for this opportunity. And my paper entitled The Governance Practices of Supreme Student Government, or the SSG, in the public secondary schools in Region 3, a paradigm shift of 21st century leaders. What's inside my presentation are the following: a brief background of the study, the statement of the problem, the results, the summary, the conclusions, and recommendations. So to give you an overview why I conducted this study, allow me to discuss in a brief statement. Supreme Student Government was hailed as the foremost co-curricular student organization authorized to operate and implement pertinent programs, projects, and activities in school. As per observation, while SSG exists in school, its presence is felt somehow relatively wanting. Many student governments perform in an ad hoc capacity and do not have sustainable school and community-based projects to begin with. Some student leaders lack the focus, understanding, and commitment in their respective student organization, which result to ineffective performance of the organization. As such, the present study determined the successfulness in governance practices of SSG as the mother umbrella of a secondary school. This is important notwithstanding the important roles of the SSG in the development and harnessing of student leaders, which have far-fetching effect in their future lives. It is significant to look on the importance of SSG so that organizational policies may be developed and offered forthrightly to make these organizations relevant to the lives of this whole student populace. A council can be effective when it successfully discusses ideas or problems, makes recommendations, and influence change and takes action. So the following are the problems addressed by the researcher. So for SOP number 1, what is the profile of the following respondents along with the SSG officers and homeroom officers in terms of their age, their sex, their grade level, their religious affiliation, their parents' occupation, for their mother and father, parents' highest educational attainment. So based on the findings, as you can see, the student leaders are teenagers, were females, mostly in grade 11, majority are Roman Catholic, mothers' occupation are mostly housewives, and majority are skilled in agriculture, forestry, and fishery workers for father's occupation. And both parents are mostly high school graduates. And for letter B, for the profile of the SSG advisors, in terms of their age, their sex, their civil status, the highest degree or the field of specialization concentration, number of years designated as SSG advisor, and the level of trainings and seminars attended related to SSG. So SSG advisors are still young. Majority are females, are married, with MA units to master's degree, belong to social studies major, mostly more than 5 years as advisor, and have national training. With that findings on the statement of the problem number 1, here's the formulated recommendation. So class advisors of senior high school students, especially grade 12 students, should motivate qualified students, Supreme Student Government Organization. For the problem number 2, what is the extent of governance practices of SSG in the public secondary schools in Region 3 as perceived by the student leaders and SSG advisors in terms of their SSG objectives, the duties and functions of SSG officers, and the role of the SSG advisor? So, as you can see, based on the findings, the extent of governance practices was highly practiced as perceived by the student leaders and SSG advisors. So this only implies that SSG are also responsible for providing variety of services to students. Their duties and functions must be exercised by the SSG officers to enhance their leadership skills. And in terms of the role of the SSG advisors, remember that no student organization can be reasonably sure of success without a competent faculty advisor. So based on the findings, here's the formulated recommendation. An intensified incentive mechanism scheme shall be crafted to recognize the officers and motivate other students to join in the organization. Problem number 3, what is the frequency of manifestation as to their duties and functions based on the following 21st century leadership skills as perceived by the student leaders and SSG advisors? So as you can see on the table, the 21st century leadership skills are the following: visionary, high emotional intelligence, mastery of self-leadership, embrace change and innovation, welcome and value of diversity, 21st century mindset, connection with the world, and action takers. So based on the findings, the frequency for the manifestation of 21st century leadership skills are always that the SSG officers had manifested these skills as perceived by the SSG advisors. So the recommendation for that SOP is, so for the recommendation of the SOP number 3, the administrators and SSG advisors should attend cluster, division, regional, and even national seminars trainings to enhance their 21st century leadership skills for the benefit of all the students and not just only be held in school. For problem number 4, is there a significant relationship between the extent of governance and practices of SSG officers and their, for letter A, for their profile? So as you can see, based on the table, the extent of governance practices of SSG officers is significantly related to their age, grade level, and modest educational attainment, while no relationship was observed between extent of governance practices in sex, religious affiliation, parents' occupation, and father's highest educational attainment. This implies that they are matured enough to handle responsibilities of the highest law-making body of the students, which is the supreme student government. And for the letter B, frequency of manifestation of 21st century leadership skills, the extent of governance practices of SSG is significantly related to the 21st century leadership skills. So the substantial and positive relationship suggests that the student leader with high extent of governance practices of SSG officers tend to have the high frequency of manifestation of the 21st century leadership skills. With that results, findings, and conclusion, here is the recommendation. SSG advisors and officers should have to be more focused upon the needs, concerns, and interests of its constituents. It should organize a regular forum where it could gain insights about the concerted needs of the students. And for problem number 5, is the significant difference in the extent of governance practices of the SSG across group of respondents. So based on the results and findings, there is a significant difference between extent of governance practices between the SSG officers, homeroom officers, and the SSG advisors. In the educational campus, good governance is being realized by having student government, which is participatory, accountable, consensual, predictable, effective, and efficient, and transparent, among others. So based on the results and findings and conclusion, here's the recommendation. Further study shall be conducted regarding the responsiveness of the Supreme Student Government for the needs, concerns, and interests of the students who are considered its immediate constituents. It shall also include in the study the motivation needs of student leaders inside this school. And finally, I also prepared a plan of action to be proposed to enhance the 21st century leadership skills of the student leaders, as mentioned earlier. So each leadership or each 21st leadership skills has its objectives and strategies
Very
or
nice
activities
presentation.
to be implemented for the visionary, high emotional intelligence, mastery of self-leadership, and embrace change and innovation, welcome and value diversity, 21st century mindset, connection with the world, and action takers. So finally, with my paper, so remember that students' social life is engendered in the school since they got exposed to various curricular and co-curricular activities that develop and harness their full potentials. They become intellectuals, classroom managers, and even student leaders. Through participation to this, they are molding their inner qualities, thus becoming a political person that suggests ideas, innovate projects, and raise the standard of school life for students like them. At the helm of this transformation are the students' organizations that all together provide meaning to their social existence. These clubs and councils represent the co-curricular function of students and serve as the training ground for them to future socio-political roles in life. With that, again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for listening, and mabuhay.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony G. Pumeras, for your brilliant presentation, through which you have made clear that how the Supreme Student Government, the culture of governance practices that should be nurtured from the very level of public secondary school, so that a good leadership at the secondary and the regional and can be developed from the school level. And although based on statistical details of data that you have collected from the ground level, I think that your model of correlation, statistical correlation, has much to offer for other developing countries, in which we should be following this kind of what I would say, a governance practice through these students' body and students' government, in training and inculcating the habits of leadership for other regions, and particularly for the development of a sustainable society in which the decision making would be responsible for the greater benefit of the society, for stability, and also for a kind of what I would say, a kind of flow will be maintained if we can follow this kind of the model that you have made. It is very innovative, it is very creative, and the statistical correlations and tendencies shows that it is possible, and it is very difficult also if the developing countries, they actually nurture this kind of model from the primary and the secondary school level, so that it builds upon the strength of their socializations and the educational achievement that goes hand in hand and in bolstering and boosting the leadership faculties that actually will be based on discipline, will be based on sense of responsibility, a kind of sensitiveness for the demand and the expectations of the community. Thank you, Professor Anthony G. Pumeras. give my microphone to Amrita Banerjee to make her comment. If you, ma'am, if you want to make your comments or observation on this very interesting paper.
Thank you very much. Exactly so. I congratulate you, Dr. Anthony, for enlightening us with so much of information. To be very frank, it was not so much known to me too. So I have gained a lot. So I think your paper, it is going to bring a kind of grow a kind of an interest towards the young research scholars, and they can somewhere or other be benefited and can think in future to do research on this particular area. In fact, I will somewhere or other, I will tell my own students to work on this field. So it's an excellent paper. Congratulations once again. Thank you.
Then we can move on to the second paper, that is the procurement practices among the SUCs in the region 1, basis for a proposed innovation procurement process. It is also authored by Dr. Gilbert P. Moralista, BSc Secretariat Head, Pangasinan State University, Pangasinan, Philippines, and Dr. Paulo V. Sinas, Vice President for the Administration, Pangasinan University, Pangasinan, Philippines, and Dr. Joe F. Ramos, Director for Procurement, Pangasinan State University, Pangasinan, Philippines. So, if the paper can be laid out in a very brief, particularly with focus to the objective and what you have actually arrived at, the main points, thrust areas of your paper with reference to the findings.
So thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer for giving us the chance to present our paper. Okay, by the way, I'm Dr. Joey Ramos, Procurement Director of Pangasinan State University, Lingayen, Pangasinan, Philippines. May I ask permission to share my screen? Philippines basis for proposed innovative procurement process. Dr. Paulo V. Sinas and Dr. Gilbert P. Moralista are my co-proponents. The Philippines has gone through many changes and development in procurement for the past few years. The continuous procurement process made a great impact on different government agencies. Relatively, the changes have given us advantages, not to mention the disadvantages. It brought causing a downfall for some agencies. There are numerous questions concerning the issues and problems existing in the procurement system as to how we can resolve it the best way we could to attain the kind of quality of procurement we have been searching for and looking for. This study examines the procurement practices and the challenges encountered by the selected SUCs in Region 1 in light of the delays in project implementation, understanding, and other procurement-related problems that need to be addressed and be given attention sometimes encountered by some institutions in the Philippines. Descriptive research design was employed in this study. The respondents of the study were the SUC's Region 1 personnel involved in procurement. To elicit significant results and findings, appropriate statistical tools were deployed in the analysis of data. The procurement process was proposed based on the results of the study that focused on the procedures and practices in procurement among SUCs in Region 1. For the results and findings, the extent of practices employed by SUCs Region 1 in the processing of procurement was determined using the mode of procurement, which includes shopping, small value, public bidding, and alternative mode of procurement, and the procurement of services and projects such as goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services. The extent of practices being employed to determine the mode of procurement under shopping, is highly practiced by the respondents as shown by an average weighted mean of 4.5. The finding implies that SUCs practice different modes of procurement based on the policies and regulations handed to them by the higher authorities. The Philippine Government Electronic Procurement System publishes procurement laws, regulations, and bidding procedures, and announces procurement opportunities applying the different modes of procurement. Table 5 provides a summary of the extent of practices employed in the procurement of goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services, which the researchers deem imperative in the study. For infrastructure projects, it obtained an average weighted mean of 4.8. Wherefore, taking into consideration the data gathered, it can be adduced that are very highly practiced by SUCs. It can be gleaned also from the table that the extent of practices in the procurement of consulting services has an overall weighted mean of 4.8 or very highly practiced. The table showed an average weighted mean of 4.7 or very highly practiced for the procurement of goods and services, which shows that SUCs in Region 1 follow the standard model of procurement. Challenges being encountered by the SUCs along procurement processing include the preparation of PPMP, APP, use of the mode of procurement, and procurement of goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services. As could be seen in Table 4, the processor system in the preparation and submission of PPMP and APP is not well defined and discussed by the procurement office. And the procurement office of SUCs have not established a procurement manual or manual of operation in the preparation and submission of PPMP are being considered as challenges, sometimes with weighted means of 2.6 and 2.5 respectively. State universities and colleges in Region 1 rarely experience challenges like shallow knowledge of the importance of PPMP and APP. And PPMP is not anchored to the strategic plan of the respective office or unit with weighted means of 2.1 and 1.6. The remaining two indicators with weighted means of 1.2 and 1.1 respectively prove that SUC's Region 1 never experienced the submission of PPMP and APP, which were not given importance, and end users do not submit their PPMP at the scheduled time of the submission. The average weighted mean was 1.85, the descriptive equivalent of rarely happened to SUCs. This could mean that there appeared rarely challenges along with the preparation of PPMP and APP in the processing of procurement. Table 5 presents the extent of challenges encountered in the use of the mode of procurement. Mostly, the end user rarely experienced challenges where the end user did not include the cost estimate of the project that causes a delay in determining the mode of procurement. The challenges on the non-submission of PPMP, which is considered as one among the factors that the mode of procurement can be determined with a weighted mean of 1.3, and mode of procurement is not well defined with a weighted mean of 1.1 and were never experienced challenges. Other challenges included the mode of procurement includes the not well defined. There are some transactions that the institution deviates from the provision of RA 9184, and the institution cannot avoid the splitting of contract with the same weighted means of 1.1 were never experienced by the SUCs in Region 1. The computed average weighted mean of the 5 indicated problems was 1.24 and considered as never experienced challenges. Procurement preparation involves 3 activities: procurement planning, preparation of the bidding documents, and the conduct of the pre-procurement conference. Procurement planning entails ensuring that procurement plans are linked to budgets, preparing the PPMP and consolidating all PPMPs into the APP. Formulating the PPMP involves identifying the procurement project requirements, writing the technical specifications, determining the approved budget for the contract, identifying the schedule of milestone activities, and determining the method of procurement. Going over the challenges encountered along with the procurement of goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services are presented in Table 6. As gleaned from Table 6, a challenge that is sometimes encountered by SUCs in Region 1 is the abrupt request for procurement, while other challenges with the weighted mean of 21.1 and 1.8 respectively were rarely encountered by the universities mentioned. Moreover, other challenges which are never encountered by the SUCs in the procurement of goods, services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services are the indicators on there is no established procedure for the processing of the end user's request and lack of funding for a particular request for procurement, with the average weighted mean of 1.2 and 1.1 respectively. The average weighted mean of all indicators is 1.8 and indicated that SUCs in Region 1 rarely encountered challenges along with the procurement of goods, infrastructure projects, and consulting services. Based on the findings of the study, it is concluded that the procurement personnel are growing professionally, but still in need of further education in the graduate program, not holding a permanent item in procurement work, and need more in-service training. The procurement offices of the SUCs in Region 1 have been doing their job through very highly practiced of the different modes of procurement and the procurement of goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services. The procurement offices of the SUCs in Region 1 never encountered challenges along with the use of the mode of procurement and rarely encountered problems in the preparation of PPMP and APP, including the procurement of goods and services, infrastructure projects, and consulting services. The innovative procurement process can be developed based on the result of the study and serve as a basis in the processing of procurement of other government institutions in the Philippines. Thank you.
Sir, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much for listening. I am now ready for your comments and suggestions.
So Dr. Amrita, do you want to comment?
No, I just want to say one thing that Dr. Joy Ramos, it was really a good, informative virtual presentation, but this would have been much more interesting if you would have presented it personally. That's
Yes.
what I just wanted to say. Over to you, sir.
Okay, ma'am, thank you very much.
A very brief comment from my end. Professor Ramos, I must congratulate you for your very interesting topic, and you made things very, although there was technicalities and statistical analysis based on which you made the thing stand on a very cogent basis in terms of the procurement and the goods, services, and the infrastructure projects that, but the very approach is very, what I would say, the approach is very creative, very meticulous approach, and you have made things crystal clear that that 21st century governance needs to be based on data analysis, and a kind of good governance practice, that is the transparency should be there. It should be based on scientific research and model building that you have done through your paper. Must I congratulate you once again? May I move to the third paper, because we are running actually very short of time. So without wasting time, I would like to request our third paper presenter, Ruchi Jain, Associate Professor of IIS deemed to be University Jaipur, Rajasthan, and Jyoti Jain, the research scholar, IIS deemed to be University Rajasthan, Jaipur, Rajasthan, to present their paper on e-governance and education, a systematic literature review. It is also a very interesting paper, I think, because we are all waiting to know what actually you want to focus, because e-governance is in a both way. It actually helps us to actually reduce the human subjectivity in governance, while at the same time it helps us to orient ourselves with the more technological orientations that might be inconducive for the people of the third world and developing countries. So I would request Dr. Jain and her scholar Jyoti Jain. Thank
So well taken your suggestion, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. E-governance and education.
না না আমাকে যেতে হবে।
আরে যা। So, ma'am, I am audible, ma'am.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
So I would request Dr. Jain and her scholar Jyoti Jain to present the paper.
Jyoti Jain and Ruchi Jain, I made you co-host so you can present, but I can see your only screen, but can't hear you from you anything. Jyoti, I can't hear you. I think, sir, we are having some technical issue. So we can go for the next presentation. Meanwhile, I think Jyoti and Ruchi Jain will resolve the issue. Sir?
Kolkata, West Bengal. So may I request Dr. Shah? May I request Dr. Shah kindly, if you can present your paper in a nutshell.
Dr. Amartya Saha, you are now co-host. So if you want, you can share your screen.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So since we are running short of time, instead of getting into a presentation, I would like to present the thoughts and facts that I've gathered from my paper. And I would like to make a short presentation out of it. First of all, thank you everyone for this opportunity to present my paper on this particular platform. The paper that I'm here to present is Cybersecurity Awareness of Students Pursuing Higher Education, a case study survey of New Alipur College. I would like to begin with why this particular area of research has gained relevance or would be relevant in the upcoming period to come. So when we look at the pandemic, especially when we look at the situation post-pandemic, what we would be able to understand is that the educational institutions had to jump into an online method or mode of pedagogy of learning. So that created a different set of problems as well as challenges and opportunities for the education sector in terms of cybersecurity. Not just the education sector, if we have a look at how things shaped up post-pandemic or during pandemic, we would be able to understand that the pandemic raised the challenges of cybersecurity further. Now, to begin with, there was a notice presented on 24th August 2021 by the University Grant Commission, which addressed to the heads of higher educational institutions and focused, or rather asked the HEIs to focus on strengthening cybersecurity in the higher educational institutions. Now, as I have understood from the study of my own college, there are quite a few challenges, and all the stakeholders of the higher educational institutes need to be made aware, and a study or maybe a detailed understanding of the position or the extent to which the cybersecurity awareness is present has to be understood if we must meet the challenges. That is the first priority. When we look at the challenges, we have to understand that what kind of challenges might we be looking at. So what are the three ways in which cybersecurity can hamper the way in which higher educational institutes operate? Higher educational institutes operate in a way, and especially when we look at it online, we see three primary areas where there might be problems. So first of all, there is a lot of sensitive data that is there that the higher educational institutes save, store online when things go online. It might be students' data, it might be examination data, it might be question papers that are uploaded or answer scripts that are uploaded. So that provides a unique challenge because this data is always there, prone or rather exposed and vulnerable to cybersecurity threats. And there have been instances in developed countries and the underdeveloped countries as well, and the developing nations as well. It's not just about any particular development spectrum, but in all the countries, there have been multiple cases where cybersecurity, issues have cropped up, and there has been instances where these data have been subject to ransomware, and these data, institutes have had to pay a lot of money to kind of restore this data that is there online when hackers have had access to them or when hackers have played on with this particular database. The second place where there is a problem or there might be a problem with the higher educational institutes is the fact that the learning process when it goes online, say for example, we are entering into a Zoom meeting. There have been multiple cases reported online in India as well, where Zoom meetings have been subject to, or not just Zoom as a platform, but several of these classroom situations where we are conducting classes online or conducting any other, maybe things online, sessions online. They have been subject to a lot of problems like Zoom bombing, where, there have been access made by others, who are not stakeholders of the institutes, and there have been problems. Even security threats like information breach and information theft. These things are the second area where HEIs face a problem. And the third area where primarily HEIs might face a big problem, or they do face a big problem, is concerning the institutes of research. Institutes of research have a lot of intellectual property online in their servers and database. And if proper care is not taken, then these research institutes, which are of great importance, can be vulnerable to cybersecurity threats. Now, when we look at the stakeholders of the institutes, higher educational institutes, one of the main stakeholders concerned who deal with cybersecurity, or not just cybersecurity, who are online and deal with this online environment, are students. So my area of study or my research, this particular paper, deals with the students and understanding what kind of awareness about cybersecurity do they have. So the three objectives of my research have been, first, to find out if the students are aware about cybersecurity, the basics of cybersecurity. The second objective has been to find out if the students actually take active steps and measures to keep themselves secured online. So whether the students being aware or not being aware, they take some steps which can keep them safe, and whether there is a vulnerability quotient that is there in the minds of the students. The third objective has been to find out if the students verify information that they receive online before believing on it or acting on it. Because we have seen multiple cases where false information have created a lot of problems. Now that might range from serious issues like news coming in from political news, or maybe communal news coming in from across different parts of the country, or it might be something very sensitive like university information, or maybe, I'll give you an example. Say there is a notice regarding an examination scheduled, or maybe a cancellation of an examination from the university website. So there all of a sudden comes up a PDF, which is a doctored PDF maybe, and students start circulating it among their fellow peer groups and everything. And there is a chaos that might be happening. So it becomes important whether verification of information, that basic awareness is there among the students when they receive information online, or do they just forward things based on, the overall idea of it, because they've received something online and it looks real. So what we have done is, the methodology is chosen by me. It is a study which is exclusively based on one particular college, my college, New Alipur College. We have a diverse bunch of students studying from different demographic backgrounds. So what I did was I chose 30 close-ended questions, and we did a survey of 556 students. 556 students took the survey, and we divided the questions in sections actually. Now, say for example, I'll tell you what the questions really were like. One of the questions was whether they have even heard the term cybersecurity before. And while most of the students, about 80% of the students had heard the term cybersecurity before, there was a lack of in-depth knowledge about the particular issue. And 20% students had actually not heard of the term cybersecurity before as well. It is surprising because it is a Kolkata, it's a urban city-based college. And if 20% of the students have not heard the term cybersecurity before or the implications of it, then there might be a serious concern that we have. Which leads me to my second question, which we had placed before the students. The question was about whether they feel that they are vulnerable and can be a victim of cyber threat. Now, often we understand that when we have to first we have to understand the necessity, vulnerability of understanding whether we can be a victim of that cyber threat as well. What we saw was 52.3% students believe that they can be a victim of cyber threat, while 47.7% students feel that they cannot be a victim of cyber threat. Now, there is a huge problem when this kind of a psychology exists in the biggest stakeholders of an higher educational institute, because they still don't have that understanding that even with the use of a phone or tablet or maybe a computer or laptop, they can be a victim of cyber security threats if they are not careful. Which led me to the next question, which was about, do you believe or do you have an understanding that someone else without an access to your phone or laptop can hack your laptop or phone from outside? The surprising part was that yes, 61% students felt that they could be hacked from outside, but 40%, 38.7%, I would say that about 38.7% people still don't feel that their devices can be hacked from outside, which is essentially an understanding which has to be broken, because if cybersecurity concerns don't get understood by the students, then they would not be able to keep themselves safer to that extent. The next question that we had asked or inquired was, do you ever feel unsafe while using the internet? Here we see almost a balanced trend as an answer. 45.7% students had answered that they feel safe, or they feel unsafe, while 54.3% students had said that there is no vulnerability issue at all that they feel. They don't feel that they are being watched. They don't feel that someone is tracking them. They don't feel that there is any concern when they're using the internet. So for them, using the internet comes with no other problems or no other headaches. Now that might be a very serious issue when we try to address the problem of cybersecurity hygiene, because there is no clear understanding of the vulnerabilities again.
Dr. Shah, can I kindly interrupt you? Just you can summarize with what actually you feel.
Summarize. Okay, so maybe not go through all the attributes, but a few attributes I would just like to mention and then summarize. So when we came to questions like whether whether the students changed their email passwords or not, we were able to see that 81.1% students say, for example, never change their password. So once they've set the password, there is no other way in which they change it. And another interesting trend was that we asked whether their email password is a combination of their phone number or date of birth. And 71.8% students still said that, it's a combination of their date of birth and their phone numbers as well. So there were a series of questions which I had placed in front of the students, which included questions like whether they would be likely to click on a link if they received an unknown link from any particular source on WhatsApp or email, while most of the students responded by saying no. But similarly, when we look at the other things that, questions like payment, which can be made online from other websites, whether it be about trusting online payments and whether they trust websites concerned, whether they understand the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, whether they use different social media, whether they access social media from different phones or, different devices rather. There has been a multiple device login by most students. We have seen that. And it is surprising to note that even when it came down to social media usage, students were never really very particular about the kind of password setting.
So what actually was your suggestion in terms of
the recommendation? Yes, sir, I would come to the recommendation of it. Actually, UGC has been taking this particular issue very seriously, and MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, has been developing quite a few materials and curriculums to increase cybersecurity hygiene measures. So I had a word, with officials from MHA as well, and they have devised a very nice curriculum, which kind of encircles the basic of cybersecurity hygiene. I particularly have gone through their material, and it's a part of the research as well. So this particular curriculum, or all my suggestion and recommendation is that if this is a model, college as a reference that we can take, all institutes of higher education definitely, in considering the current situation, should be implementing a cyber security awareness curriculum. It can be a short course also of a few days, but there should be a curriculum which is made mandatory for the students and also for the other stakeholders of the higher educational institutes, if we must have a safer and less vulnerable system or educational system in terms of cybersecurity threat. Because at the end of the day, cybersecurity threat is one of the biggest threats that our country faces as well. All websites, government websites, Twitter profiles, social media profiles go through cybersecurity threats every day, and there is no reason why students, since they form the basic backbone of the future of our country, shouldn't be forced to get into a curriculum which makes them aware of the basics of cybersecurity threat. That is my observation and recommendation.
Amrita, what is your take actually on this very interesting and very relevant and pertinent topic?
Firstly, Dr. Amurta Shaha, firstly, I would like to congratulate and many thanks for such a great presentation to, promote the awareness of these cybersecurity. And what I feel is that learning, good cybersecurity habit is as important. Of course, it is important to the college, but not only to the college, but also to the, the students, those who are in school, because due to this pandemic situations, we have seen that those people, those students who live in the rural background, those who come from the rural background, okay, they also had to use this kind of technology. So what do you think that in what way the awareness should reach to this people? Like you have said that you have taken a kind of a, you have taken a kind of a note from the students, like how do they think what is cyber security and all. So how do you think that, how can you reach to the rural people, the people who reside to the, this background, those who come from this kind of background? This is my just a small
Ma'am, so this is thank you so much for appreciating the work. I'll bring some clarity on this. So first of all, there has to be a very clear way of understanding as to what the problems are, and if there is a problem, what is to be done. Say, for example, I'll tell you that most of the students are unaware of the cybersecurity cell that is there in Lal Bazar. So if you're if you have a cybersecurity problem happening, if your phone gets hacked, where should you get in touch with? So there is no basic awareness of it. I think there should be an officer in every educational institute, and that way, you don't have to get someone else from outside. What I have seen is MHA has a very nice curriculum where they train government officials, police personnel, and everyone. Whoever is a government employee can go through that training, and if they take an initiative. So if the higher educational institutes have at least one teacher, or not just higher educational schools also, if there is one teacher who is aware of these curriculum basics, it's a 44-page, thing that the MHA gives to you as a part of an advanced cybersecurity hygiene learning. So, it's a very extensive and it's a very exhaustive way of learning. So, it's just 44 pages of awareness that you have to make a mandatory move to incorporate in the curriculum from school. And if we can do that, how often do we have, not just school students, how often do we see, people who have no dealings with maybe social media also, they receive phone calls asking them for OTP of their bank, bank card, everything. So it includes—
What is your take on INGOs? I'm not talking about NGOs. I'm talking like, what do you think?
We cannot discuss the
no, it's a very interesting topic. So just for that reason, I was just crossing.
Sure. Ma'am, I would like to connect with you, like if we could, connect after the session also, then we can, it's like exchange notes. We can talk.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next focuses on the role of the government in education in India. Is a paper to be presented by Dr. Kusum Sangriwal, Assistant Professor Sri Ratanlal Khanrawal Pathi Government Postgraduate College, Rajasthan. Kishan
Sir, actually, one miscommunication happened. She will present in the Hindi session. She wrote her paper title in English, so I thought it is in English only. But actually, her paper is in Hindi session.
Okay. So the next paper is on educational service delivery, role of the common service center CSCs in changing rural society into digitally empowered society. Dr. Sunita Narayan Chowdhury, ICSSR postdoctoral fellow, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur, Rajasthan. So may I request Dr. Narayan, Sunita Chowdhury, kindly if you deliver the crux of your paper. Actually, the why you actually paper and what is your finding, ma'am? Kindly.
I think Sunita is not here. Sir, I think Sunita is not here, so we can go for the next presentation.
The next topic is also very interesting. Good governance through skill development and its success rate with respect to employment and income generation. And it is to be presented by Bobby Narayan, research scholar, Ravi Tagore University, Madhya Pradesh. So may I request the author, kindly if you come up to present your paper in a very brief way. Thank you, sir. Sir, the plan is yours. We are waiting to just to hear your paper.
Sir, just one request to all presenters, try to finish your paper on time, take only 5 minutes. We have to conclude the session by 7 so that we can start our next session, which is scheduled at 5 actually, but we are running 2 hours late. So yes, Bobby sir, you can continue.
Yeah, I think I should jump to the conclusion itself. Okay, now my paper is regarding the good governance in skill development and the success rate with the respect to.
Just with a brief introduction, if you just come to the conclusion, that is most desirable.
Shall I jump to the conclusion?
No, sir. Actually, you start with a brief note, a brief introduction.
Okay, I will finish it within 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Now the topic is written before you, and the next slide it comes that the good governance, as if it is known to you all, that it alludes to both political and managerial capacities that guarantee model and moral conduct in the governance and interactions. Now, there are the 3 foundations of governance: that is participant, transparency, and accountability, and which we don't find at all. And the policies in the recent years have tried to eliminate poverty and inequality by increasing society's equality of life through efficient and effective government. But I think it is not possible. Now, to the next one. Now, income inequality and governance. The uneven income distribution and the low growth rate are major issues, particularly in developing countries and in poor countries as well. So we are facing the skill scarcity, and strategies on skill development is not available, and it is not properly implemented. Unemployment is a sign of squandered resource. It is Susanto Joko stated that, and the relationship between unemployment and growth is still up for a dispute. That is, the question is that does it mean the rate of unemployment is unaffected by the economic growth? Though we are having the economic growth, but we are not still coming up with the solution of unemployment. Now, income as a security. Now, we are finding that we are getting physical threats, minority threats, terrorist threat, and all of the threats. But income is the major threat. And academicians even don't understand income is a threat or not. But I have studied it, and I find that it is a major threat for the unemployed youth. And now, what is the question is that can the skill development enhance income, and by how much? And it is found that it is study found in 2026 by Abhijit Sharma and Mahendra that it can increase by 0.5 to 2% in a specific country, but which country it is not it. India may be or may not be. Promoting the benefit of personal development And I think to some extent it is achieved. But what is the present status of skill in India? As per the Skill India report 2015, only 37%, 34% only the female, and the figure is 21.2, and India ranks 129th among 163 countries, which the data is available. Due to lack of professional skill set, even the half of the Indian graduates are unemployed. Now coming to the next one. Now, what does the common man consider when it comes to income and standard of living standard? So with the living wages, that is low wages, and that is low income, low wage, laborers profit aggregated, and it forms the part of the lower part of income dissemination. Now, have we failed to give good governance in respect of employment and income generation? Yeah, we totally failed that. And though the you say you Manrega or one Narega scheme, but I find it is to encourage the grassroots board-based system, and it's nothing else. And skill development model in India is itself is a defective one, because our education is not based on that skill education, and skill-based education are only vocational one. And the use of talent in India is very miserable, and we are unable to compete with that global skill or world skill, what you say. The major critical skill that we Indians require are very lacking. That is collaboration, communication, content, critical thinking, creative innovation, and confidence. And the skill gap is very much in all sectors. Now this problem creates with this thing, that is the skill shortages. And now I jump to the conclusion that 80% of India's workforce lack recognizable and marketable skill. And even those who have been trained under the Skill India or Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana are unable to find jobs. And only 15% those who trained got a job. Now my conclusion is that India needs to learn from technical and vocational training education from this China, Germany, Japan, Brazil, Singapore, so as to ensure that the employability of the youth and give them a secured income. Thank you.
So again, another very interesting and very pertinent paper in which the author has highlighted the importance of skill development, not only objectively, but also the real situation that exists in the ground, and which is creating a massive challenge, an obstacle for India's future growth aspirations, and that is the unrealized dream of empowerment and India's future aspirations to emerge as a great power. The importance of this paper with the data that Bobby Narayan, the veteran research scholar, has up. I think it's a matter of not a matter of 5 minutes presentation, but 1 to 3 days can be spent on this on the discussion of the in a threadbare fashion. But since we are running short of time, so I would I would acknowledge the intellectual boost that has been created by the bare lines of presentation, and its implication, however, is very profound, and the line of research that it actually tells us to undertake, I think it is no doubt we can ignore the importance of the line of thought that the research scholar has actually presented before us. I appreciate wholeheartedly the effort of the research scholar. And next paper by Renuka Sham Narayan, the research scholar of Indira Gandhi National Open University, is on interdisciplinary approach in the study of education, governance, and social theory. I think that the research scholar Renuka Sham Narayan is here. Ma'am, kindly, if you just put forward your presentation in a very compact and in a very brief fashion, we would be obliged. And I think that your paper has much to tell, because you have not only it seems that it has a theoretical angle, because you have tagged it with the social theory. So, ma'am, may I request the Renuka Shyam Narayan kindly to present your paper.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm unable to share my screen. I want to share my presentation over here.
But Renuka, you are co-host now, so you can share your screen now.
Okay, so should I click this co-host?
No, you are already co-host now.
Okay, so is my screen is visible to you?
No, just try to share your screen and also switch on your camera.
Okay.
Share your screen, yeah. In the lowest line, you can see in green, it is written share screen. Just
yes.
Click on that and try to share your screen.
Okay. Fine.
And please try to complete your presentation in 3-4 minutes, okay?
Is it visible now?
No.
Yes. No.
No. Okay.
Can you just read your presentation?
Yeah, sure. So, good evening, everyone.
Can you switch on your camera?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption and delays. So basically, good evening, everyone, academician, research scholars. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And without taking much time, I'm just presenting my paper in front of you. And the topic says Interdisciplinary Approach in a Study of Education, Governance, and Social Theory. So now I'm just telling you the gist of my paper because we don't have much time here. So governance represent the norms, values, and rules of the game through which public affairs are managed in a manner that is transparent, participatory, inclusive, and responsive. So in context to the research proposal, education governance and the decision-making process regarding the education system and changes in the education system with the requirements in the economy, which includes the organization and proposals which manage the education system, could allocate responsibility and define roles in determining the education policies and programs. So coming up to the social theories, that means that explain the behaviors and action of the society under the political, sociological, and psychological effects. The recreation of society as a whole is due to the change introduction of new policy in the economy. So basically in my paper, I'm unable to share my screen. I can show you the figure. So what I have concluded that as per the reports of the education policy and its implementation process with the proposed framework given by OECD. So OECD is what? It's an organization for economic cooperation and development. So the study includes the global educational governance of OECD, and with that, it also includes the statistical data, which has a governing technology which is useful in education reforms. So under this study, they have also examined and observed the efforts of the international comparative valuation of education. The study focuses in the process, which includes the clarification process, standardization, and the normalization process for analyzing the national effectiveness. So here is, I'm not able to show the figure again, I'm saying sorry. So the impact of social theory on education governance basically is that for effective implementation of education policy or governance in the economy, it is important to consider the social factor at every stage of the decision, planning, and implementation, which is very important for everyone. For the economy, it is very important to consider the ESG factor into the consideration while evaluating the governance in the country. So in my research paper, I am recommending that my research paper report tells that the governance and its importance for the country with the proper method of implementation of the economy. With that, the effect of the social theory on policies and especially in the education governance. So this report is a combination with other research analysis, the digitalized method of education governance, which are nowadays performed by the government with the schools and universities. So with the development or operational shift in educational reforms, with the change in the formal origin of the government, with the change in policy making process. For example, with the real-time digital data technologies, which we use. So we can make it possible in assuming the assessments, online courses, digitalized classrooms through bureaucratic organs of government. With the analysis of the research paper, it can determine that without the support of social or society, the implementation or success of the policies cannot be understood by the government. So in the conclusion, with the digitalization and adoption of the new techniques of education governance, which are now used in performing the government technical and commercial work through providing equipments in schools and universities, digitalized classrooms and lecture halls, online e-assessments with specific coded software, and data practices which required new digitalized infrastructure in the education sector. Social factors, similarly with this time, the social factor plays an important role in forming and implementing governance. Change in the economy with new policies or changes hindering human society, security, or going against the social theory or society would affect the policies negatively and might be reason for the unsuccessful. We have seen a similar cases of this in Serbia with the implementation of such kinds of things. So this is all about my paper. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present my paper over here. Thank you so much, Nani ma'am. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Renuka. I think we can invite the second presenter, Ruchi Jain and Jyoti Jain, who were unable to present that time. And both of you are already co-hosts, so you can present if you want. Jyoti?
Yes, okay, sir.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Jyoti.
Okay.
Professor Gauri Shankar Nag, I invited on your behalf Jyoti Jain and Ruchi Jain to present their paper.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Ma'am, your paper is on e-governance and education, a systematic literature review. So,
Yes,
ma'am,
sir.
if you are there, kindly if you present your paper.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Jyoti Jain. I'm here to present the research paper on e-governance and education, a systematic literature review. Introduction. Change has been occurring at a lopsided speed in any development-oriented industry, and education area is no special case. Gigantic progressions in technology has been observed in 21st century, which has prompted extensive advancement in the managerial framework. Electronic governance is defined as utilizing information and communication technology at different levels of public sector and the government to upgrade governance. The inception of e-governance in the field of higher education, it is an important concept that can enable governing bodies to control the advancement of the education plan in the entire nation. Systematic literature review. A systematic literature review is an outline of the literature available on a specific topic that meets pre-characterized qualification measures. The objective of systematic literature review is to recognize, basically evaluate, and to sum up the current proof regarding a clearly defined issue. Hence, in this research paper, an attempt has been made to undertake systematic literature review on the topic e-governance and education on the basis of several aspects, such as year of publication, number of citations, country of publication, and conclusions drawn. Research method. The exploration procedure includes manual search on online databases. A similar solicitation was utilized in the web indexes of several literature sources. The inquiry was e-governance and education as well as e-governance or education. The criteria adopted for the selection of various research papers in the study is as follows. Research papers that are beyond the year 2005, research papers matching one of the inquiry things, and papers which are published in different journals which are accessible in an online database. Analysis on the basis of year of publication. It has been observed that out of total 40 research papers reviewed, around 3 research papers were between 2006 to 8, 6 between 2018 to 20, and 1 between 2021 and 22. Analysis on the basis of country of publication. The above analysis indicate that most of the research papers reviewed are from India. Analysis on the basis of journal of publication. The above table provide the publication details of several research papers reviewed. It has been observed that a few papers reviewed are published in various Scopus Index journals, whereas others are published in peer-reviewed journals. Analysis on the basis of number of citations. The above table indicate that most of the research papers that have been reviewed have citations ranging from 0 to 499, and highest number of citation of a research paper is 1414. Analysis on the basis of conclusion. Basis of classification of research papers. Several research papers that have been reviewed by me are categorized on different bases. It has been observed that around 16 research papers are related to e-governance and education institutes, 5 are related to role of e-governance in education, 4 are related to role of ITC, 2 are related to e-governance and education quality, whereas 2 are related to rural education. This table provides the conclusion of the research paper that have been reviewed by me, which is related to e-governance instruments. Similarly, this table provides the description of the conclusion of the several research papers that have been reviewed by me, which are related to e-governance and education institutes. So, shall I read the conclusion of a few research papers?
Yes, Jyoti. Please.
Okay, ma'am. How e-governance is helpful in Indian universities. Advantages of e-governance to Indian education system. This research paper concluded that there are very little investment or effort has been given in the software area, which is an essential area for the purpose of enhancement of e-governance in the nation. E-governance and education quality. The research papers that have been the conclusion of several research papers that have been reviewed by me, which are related to e-governance and education quality, is as follows. Conclusions. Systematic literature review indicated that e-governance assumes an imperative part in supporting strong, productive administration and organization in education sector, and information and communication technology is fundamentally adding to the useful learning and quality improvement in the education sector. However, great progression and variation in this space is yet to occur, and still there are a few potential roadblocks that are required to have been appropriately addressed to make the way of achievement in the effective implementation of e-governance in education sector. So since the systematic literature review was conducted with special reference to India, and it has been observed that there are numerous issues of higher education framework that can be addressed by e-governance and public-private partnership model, expanding digital literacy with the assistance of technical development will lead to rural advancement in India. The references of several research papers that have been reviewed by me are as follows. Thank you.
Thank you, Renuka. I
So,
think
ma'am,
now we can, yeah, Professor Gauri Shankar now.
so I listening to the paper, how digital literacy and use of internet, particularly during this COVID period, can improve our research ability. And there are different data which can tell us that since the coverage of the digital literacy coverage, particularly in the remote rural areas, can be a constant on this actually this literature, doing this literature review and promoting the research, doing research. Although I think this an area of much to explored through systematic explorations and our effort and increasing ability of the young scholars and the youth in different HEIs to come up with their skill to use this new medium, particularly the medium which can actually make available research findings and worldwide data available in the digital webs. So with this, I think that May I request my co-chair Amrita Banerjee kindly, ma'am, if you have any comments on the merit of this paper.
I think Dr. Amrita is facing.
No, I have nothing to say. I will just say like congratulations, and it was a wonderful, informative presentation. Thank you.
So we can move on to the next paper.
Yeah, just one rectification I want to make. Anchal said, I think her presentation is also in Hindi. And the student from Saudi Arabia is not present here, and also the research scholar from Canada, she is also not present here. Only one paper remaining. I have written wrongly about his designation, so I want to make correction here. Zoeb Hassan Sen, he is student at Superior University, Pakistan. And his paper title is Challenges in Quality of Education in HEIs of Pakistan.
Okay. So we are waiting to hear from Mr. Zoeb Hassan Sain, student, Pakistan, and Muhammad Umar Riaz Abbasi, a research scholar of National University of Modern Languages of Islamabad, Pakistan. So,
sir, actually, that's the correction I made. That paper is solely written by Zoeb, and he is student of Superior University, Pakistan.
Okay. So
good evening, all. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You can start your deliberation.
Okay, and thank you so much.
But be very brief. Kindly.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. The topic of my presentation is Challenges in Quality of Education in Higher Education Institutions of Pakistan. Introduction. What does quality mean in the context of education? Many definitions of quality in education exist, testifying to the complexity and multifaceted nature of the concept. Considerable consensus exists around the basic dimensions of quality education today. Quality education includes learners who are healthy, well nourished, and ready to participate and learn, and supported in learning by their families and communities. Environments that are healthy, safe, protective, and gender sensitive, and provide adequate resources and facilities. Coming to the statement of the problem, the challenges in quality of education in higher education institutions of Pakistan can be traced back to the very inception of the country, when the newly independent state inherited an already defined system of education. This system was weak, poorly managed, and classified. The system could not be reformed according to the social journey of the people. Due to this, Pakistan is still struggling with the lowest literacy rate, 60% in the world, even after 74 years of its existence. This study attempts to analyze the various challenges in quality of education in higher education institutions of Pakistan. Objectives of the study. The main objective of this study is to identify the challenges in quality of education in higher education institutions of Pakistan, and the sub-objectives are to identify the relationship between curriculum and quality of education, relationship between less training institutions and quality of education, relationship between corruption in education and quality of education, relationship between teachers' behavior and quality of education, relationship between less research work and quality of education. This is the theoretical framework, as you can see in front of you. Methodology. Research strategy. An exploratory approach has been adopted for this research. The reason for using this approach is to identify the challenges in quality of education in higher education institutions of Pakistan. A sample of 5 universities was selected on the basis of commonality, such that all institutions were from the public sector and chartered by the same provincial government. Similar environment dependency on same superior ministry, locality, and nature justifies selection of this sample. A total of 100 questionnaires were filled by the students of the selected 5 universities. The research used triangulation in order to carry the reliability and validity of the data for results. So to conduct this triangulation, the researchers used questionnaire for the students, walk-in observations, and interviews of the teachers. Data analysis and results. The following section of this paper analyzes the data collected. Firstly, sample adequacy is checked. Thirdly, exploratory factor analysis is conducted to address the purpose of this study. Randomly, walk-in observations of the teachers were taken, keeping in mind the data gathered by questionnaire by the students in order to validate the data further. Next, unguided interviews of the teachers were conducted to know the insight of the scenario. The teachers came up with the problems they were facing, like lack of resource that could enhance students' research skills and how this has affected their behavior. Limitations. To take the walk-in observations, the institute heads were pre-informed and received their complete cooperation. Delimitations were, during the survey, out of 100 questionnaires, 98 were returned by the respondents. Out of 98, 3 were incorrectly filled or were left incomplete. Therefore, the actual size of this study was 95. The ethical consideration, the subject of this study will be briefed about the nature of study before collecting data. The data provided by respondents will be kept confidential. Further, a permission form will be signed from the participant before they engage in research in order to protect the participant's right. The permission will include the following: the right of participant voluntarily and research to withdraw anytime, the purpose of this study so that individual understands the nature of the research and impact on them. Comprehensive information will be provided to respondent in order to make them clear about aspect, objectives, and outcomes of research. Signature of both researcher and respondent. Future directions. The purpose of this study is to identify the challenges and quality of education in higher education institutions of Pakistan, which educational sector is suffering from the last few years. In future, we will research on solutions of these challenges to increase the quality of education. The government of Pakistan has announced that education is compulsory for 16 years old for each and every citizen. It will play an important role in the development of Pakistan. Conclusion. This paper concludes that education develops people in all domains of life, such as social, moral, spiritual, political, and economic. It is dynamic. It is a dynamic force which enables every nation and to achieve its overall national goals. It is an established fact that countries that have developed a sound system of education have a sound social and political system. With effective educational system, many countries are playing a leadership role in the Committee of Nations. The quality of education system in Pakistan has not been able to play its role effectively in nation building. This factor has contributed towards development of frustration among the Pakistani society. Finally, the study concludes that there is an urgent need to reform the system of quality of education in Pakistan, and for this purpose, this study presents the following recommendations. Following other recommendations: that curriculum should be evaluated on annual basis. In this regard, a vast survey could be conducted to seek options of teachers, parents, and community regarding their expectations and observations. In this slide, the expert recommendations of the education researchers, the curriculum goals should be redefined. In the view of importance of education, the government should take solid steps towards the implementation instead of projecting policies. In this regard, government should establish more training institutions for better and continuous feature of quality of education in Pakistan. The system of accountability must be strengthened, and all the professionals associated with the system of education should be educated to their own responsibilities or individual and collective basis. The government should conduct workshops and training programs, making teachers aware about the behavior towards students. The culture of research should be promoted within educational institutions. For this purpose, the pace of research-oriented programs in teaching and learning should be accelerated in educational institutions around the country, especially at higher levels. Government should increase the volume of funding to Higher Education Commission for this purpose. These are the references. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoeb. I think one more paper is remaining. Dr. Achal, she will present in English. Sorry for inconvenience. I said her paper is in Hindi.
No, ma'am, the title of the paper is Politicization of Education, a Neo-Governance Approach, Degrading Education. So I think another thought-provoking paper will deal with how the politicization of education might have a deleterious impact on education in terms of decision making, that might actually adversely affect the merit or the doctrine of education or man making, as Vivekananda said. So I would request the scholar Anchal Seth of University of Punjab, kindly, if you, ma'am, present your paper in a nutshell.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Anchal Seth and I'm here to talk to you about the politicization of education, a new governance approach degrading education. In Indian closed civil society, we often come across caste as the major barrier in the advancement of modern society. Caste for many years have become a political tool. Politicians use this medium to gain votes and to win elections. The education system too is paralyzed by political selfish motives. From employment to reservation in colleges is one era, and another era being the use of textbook syllabus for the vast introduction of their own party ideologies. In the book Caste in Indian Politics by Rajni Kothari, he mentioned the term politicalization of caste. Similarly is the case of education nowadays in India. That is why it can be called politicalization of education. My paper has been divided into different 6 strands, but since the time limit is low, so I would like to bring in to highlight the change in syllabus of textbook spectrum for self-motives by the government. When a student joins school, he or she is assigned a syllabus for his standard and ability to learn according to age. They have a standard. They have a trust in the syllabus provided to them from their assigned board that they will be able to learn new things this year. What they don't know is that this syllabus is manipulated one. They never question the government for what they have been taught. It is not of the same standard and quality it was before. It has been changed to political motives and ideologies by policymakers to achieve their own sense of achievements in this. They don't know the facts stated in their books are incomplete. For example, a complete change in Delhi University undergraduate program was visible, where the importance of rebellion before independence 1857 went missing, like Sannyasi rebellion in Bengal, Paika rebellion in Orissa, and Poligar rebellion in Tamil Nadu were deleted. And whereas importance to Veer Savarkar after 1857 and the First War of Independence were brought into highlight. Further stating the Mughal rule is no important issue to understand history of India was given a small portion and new terms like Saraswati revolution were added. This shows the hypocritical government ideology factor. Not only this, but in order to reduce burden of 10th and 12th standard due to pandemic factors, important chapters from CBSE syllabus like secularism, democracy, communalism were also deleted in political science books. This bias of approach towards communalism were this bias of approach towards the syllabus for teaching and what they propagate is an upcoming issue of how the political bodies have started manipulating the syllabus to teach their own ideology factor. This new approach of governance will degrade the level of education and the thought processes of students will be shaped according to what the government wants. While the modern world is making education more reachable and autonomous, in India, the opposite situation is witnessed, where the joy of seeking political gain, education has become a mere tool in the hands of political parties. Or we can say it has become a self-controlled education system where everything is owned by the government. My next major strand is how we can see there is a shift in government in education policy, starting with Rajiv Gandhi era, moving on to UPA and ending with NDA alliance from 2014 to till date. In 1986, revolutionary policy of education was implemented, known as New Education Policy 1986. For decades, Indian education system followed the path laid in it. This education policy shared in-depth study of rural area schools and upward mobilization of lower caste and the class in Indian society. The main focus was to bring more women, tribal and caste students in the school. The world recognized Open University, Indira Gandhi National Open University was also open. Whereas when we come into the education system provided by NDA, National Democratic Alliance, they have saffronized the education. This we can see, as I talked earlier, about how the syllabus has been manipulated. But not only this, the controversial appointments and extension of vice chancellors in various Indian universities as the right-headed spectrum policy itself is the politicization of education. The Sedition Acts against various renowned professors, students became the new agenda of NDA, which was never seen in UPA era. Next, my paper talks about how there have been regeneration of Mandal system. As stated by Emin Srinivas, the term Sanskritization, where the lower caste attains upward mobility in society by equalizing the dominant caste status in society through various mediums, and one being the education. The education should be medium where the caste fades away due to reservation and uplifting marginalized caste and tribes in Indian society. It should be a medium to shape ideologies. But the opposite is
Achal,
happening.
please conclude your paper.
Okay, sorry. So in conclusion, I want to say the education system in our nation has been politicized for the self-motive gains through various modes of policy making by the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Achal. Actually, reached the faggot of this panel discussion. I must congratulate at the very outset all the paper presenters with diverse thoughts, and most of the paper presenters were unique in their approach, particularly from the initial two papers based on statistical data analysis to other papers which took up the methodology of survey in their institutions, particularly taking up the topic or bearing on the topic of cyber security to politicizations of education, and also the interdisciplinary approach to education. All these papers constitute or provide or offer a fresh thought to actually reflect upon, bearing on the topic of human security, governance, and education. Overall, the impression that I get is that we should be very inclusive. We should be very open-minded, harmonizing different aspects of our society, culture, and we should be trying to develop a kind of what I would say, not very particularistic. We should not inch toward particularistic model, but we need theoretical vision, and so that we can come up with a kind of universal insight that we can follow, particularly because we are living both in terms of global post-global scenario, post-pandemic scenario, and particularly if I can immediately tell you that we are based in India, which is actually the center point of the South Asia, where still human security confronts major challenges in terms of literacy, and where the universal education, quality education, particularly the SDG, which it emphasizes in its 2030 agenda, the quality of education is still a distant dream in South Asian countries, most of the South Asian countries, in a by and large manner. So if we need to, I think we need to cull insights from this paper, and these I must congratulate the organizer, particularly Nandini Bosishto, Professor Nandini Bosishto, for her initiative to get together and to organize such a thought-provoking panel discussion, because the inputs that we all gathered will benefit the academic community, not not only the academic community, but also it will create a kind of action, I would say, because most of the paper presenters, they actually emphasized on the implementation aspect rather than crafting a kind of design that we always emphasize, leaving aside the implementation aspect that leads to the despair. So so I think that whatever might emerge in a post-pandemic scenario, we cannot I would say that we cannot ignore the aspiration of our society, particularly the thought leaders of the presenters. They come up with that with leading ideas and creative ideas and innovative ideas. They might actually build up a strategy to steer our pathway towards a more resilient, more secure, more inclusive, more holistic and sustainable society, with education acting to help us more as a to supply more insight in this strategy building, and a society which will be more responsive, which will be acting in terms of what I would say, an partnership, and I think that in a nutshell, if I am to conclude, I would say that that most of the paper presenters, although in a distinct and unique fashion, they viewed the topics they addressed, the conclusion would be to that we need a paradigm shift in our approach, and that paradigm shift actually needs to appreciate the crucial importance of education in building a strategic pathway, so that a more resilient and more secure future for the well-being of particularly of the vulnerable section can be made. And the technology has been emphasized. The technological orientation and training has been emphasized, but I think that human mind itself is a technology. Itself is the source of and creativity that with which human being they are coming up with new apps, new what I would say, the new methods and models with which I think that the future would be healthy, future would be more secure, more holistic, and more communitarian, and with these aspirations and optimism, I would like to transfer the microphone to my co-chair. If ma'am, you have any observation to make at the fag end of this panel. Amity Banerjee ma'am, are you there?
I just want to, yes, I just want to congratulate all the panelists and would like to say that it was good listening to all the panelists, and I've learned also from them, and it was really a very good presentation from each of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Gauri Shankar Nag and Dr. Amrita Banerjee for managing this session so wonderfully. I think all the presenters will gain something from your comments, and they will rework on their papers.